This debate, anybody who is a Democrat or a liberal, you have to realize this is going to be, everybody's going to be competing here to sound more right-wing than the other guy, because this is a Republican primary. So don't be offended if they sound like raving right-wingers, because that's what gets you the votes.
I was born in New Jersey. I was raised here. My two sons were brought up here. They were married in this state, and I love the state of New Jersey.
Became a Republican because I lived through the 60s as a college student, watching Lyndon Baines Johnson spend money like there was no tomorrow, promising us a great society program based upon taxes, spending, borrowing, and monetary depreciation.
My promise and vision is based on a principled message of low taxes, less government, peace and security through strength, and the encouragement of economic and individual freedoms.
I've been a leader on providing sound economic solutions to our problems since 1976. You can see the first piece I wrote that was published in the New York Times warning about what's happening today.
Certainly after 24 years in Washington, it's time, by Frank Lautenberg, it's time for someone else.
The young people in this audience and their children will have Tax Freedom Day as August 23rd. That means the average young person who's shaking his head right in front of me will be working 8 months of the year to pay his or her federal, state, and local taxes. That's one of the primary reasons I entered this race.
We had just had a $150 billion tax stimulus package passed bipartisanship by both Republicans and Democrats a few months ago. That was when oil was at $92 a barrel. I believe oil is about $117 a barrel now. That money, that stimulus, the effects that will have on our economy, it's gone.
And the other thing that we have to worry about for the 21st century that very few people talk about in the federal campaign, and that is education. I've been an educator virtually all my adult life, and I know the importance of a sound education. We now have tax credits, federal tax credits for college students. I want to extend that to K through 12. So parents, if they want to send their kid to a non-governmental school, whether it's a parochial school or an independent school, have the ability, by getting a tax credit at the federal level, to do that.
Imagine unleashing the force of 300 million consumers on health care. Quality of the service would go up, price will go down. Probably the most important aspect of my promise and vision, and the cornerstone of it, is to rid ourselves of dependency on foreign oil. It is literally choking our economy and sending our young men and women off to foreign lands and dying for this vital interest.
We know that what we have to do is to seek out the people who mean to kill us, track them down, and destroy them. We have to recognize the realities of terrorism in the 21st century and the technology that makes it possible for them to have disproportionate capability for doing us damage.
You asked who we're fighting. Well, it depends. We're fighting the Shias today, and we were fighting the Sunnis just a few years ago. We can't get in the middle of that. So for us to do what we're doing in Iraq should not be open-ended. And I think the Iraqis have to know that. We've given enough in blood and treasure. We have to see them step up into the plate to have a political solution, to put the sectarian differences aside.
The cost of the Iraq situation has been estimated to be about $500 billion. And there's a brand new book claiming that if we stay in Iraq and Afghanistan a few more years, the cost to the American people will be $3 trillion.
We have no choice but to try to create enough stability as we leave so that you will have a functioning state with a civil society that will marginalize and in time and try to destroy these terrorist elements, regardless of whether it's Al-Qaeda or Shia or others, and will cooperate with us as we, from outside of Iraq, try to eliminate this threat to us.
I propose that the Iraqi people have to take care of their own security just like every other nation in the world. They have the means to do so. Oil is at nearly $120 a barrel. They certainly have enough revenue, pumping out 2 million barrels of oil a day. The Iraqi people have to take charge of their own country.
The balanced budget amendment that came up for a vote in Congress in the last decade, and the one that Bob Torricelli changed his mind about, was really a weaker form of balanced budget amendment because it just said that revenues have to equal spending. And you can balance a budget at a low level of spending, at a very high level of spending, and a high level of taxes. I voted for that legislation, and but I co-sponsored and supported legislation, a constitutional amendment that was considerably stronger and that made more sense, which didn't say simply that the budget had to be balanced, but it had to be balanced at a lower level.
I have a great quote from a 19th century journalist who said, "The darkest hour of a man's life when he sits down to plan how to get money without earning it." That's why we have a $3 trillion budget in the United States of America. People are planning all over the country how to get their neighbor's money, not by robbing their bank account or doing something like that, but going to the federal government and getting a program.
We're going to be spending roughly $286 billion over the next few years subsidizing what? Corn, which has tripled in cost the last number of years, wheat, which has tripled in cost the last number of years, tobacco. Why are we subsidizing tobacco? Last I saw, tobacco is not healthy for you. Let's go to the grand poobah. Let's go to defense. $522 billion last year spent on defense. I believe in a strong defense, but I also know that as we overextend ourselves, we're not focused anymore. That doesn't give us a strong defense. That fragmentizes our defense. So, with Europe doing so well and the euro at $1.55, why are we defending Europe to the same level? Japan is a powerhouse economically, so is South Korea. Maybe we should revisit, not the fact that we want to help them in their defense, because we do, but certainly maybe we should revisit how much money we're spending there, and maybe they should ante up a little bit more, or maybe a little bit more than that.
Entitlements. Those are programs that are built into the law and go up regardless of what the Congress says from year to year. It's called uncontrollable spending, but of course it's controllable if you change the underlying legislation that gives rise to these entitlements. One of the entitlement programs is the agriculture program. I fought very hard to do away with this ridiculous system of sending subsidies to farmers who now earn a better living than the average American.
I believe that the abortion issue should be handed back to the states where it was prior to Roe versus Wade. This way you get a contentious issue out of the federal government and bring it back to where it should be, just as we have other statutes that are at the state level. That's the only reasonable way that the founders envisioned that a lot of these contentious issues should be handled.
I am pro-life. It's difficult to say send it back to the states. You don't have to look any further than what's going on with the taking apart of marriage, where if one state court decides that marriage is no longer between a man and a woman, that we have to, all 50 states have to concur with that, and I think that's wrong.
I believe in a woman's right to choose, and I believe it's protected by the Constitution, but I believe that there should be reasonable restrictions put on that right, such as a ban on partial birth abortion and such as parental notification.
Israel is one of those great oases in the Middle East, a vibrant economy, a strong establishment, an educated population, and I wish their Arab neighbors would learn from them, and I think we'd have much greater peace in the Mideast.
If there's an attack on Israel, we know Israel does have nuclear weapons. Whether we have to join into that fight or not may actually be a moot point. What we should be doing is ensuring diplomatically right now that we can try to bring all sides together.
I believe that one of the cheapest ways for us to deal with the energy problem is to conserve more, and we should relieve certain sectors of the energy economy, such as nuclear, from unnecessary regulatory restraints, which have resulted in no nuclear power plants being permitted since the 1970s.
But as a general principle, oil companies should be going to areas where there is recoverable oil at a reasonable cost. And with the price being $120 a barrel today, it seems that we should be thinking about places that we should drill.